welcome to Curriculum Night 2021, the Earth Science Edition. I'm sure you've seen several over our Curriculum Night videos before from other teachers, but I'd like to spend just a few minutes briefly going over some of the things that we're doing in the Earth Science this year. I have your child in my fifth period at this point, and my fifth period, they are shaping up to be just an incredible class. I just had them. They just left, and they just seem to get along really, really well. Almost too well. I mean, there hasn't been any drama or anything. But anyway, a little bit about me. I'm Derek Piper. I've been teaching since 1993 is when I first started. I spent most of my specialist degrees are in gifted education and math and whatnot. I've been an administrator here at the school, math teacher, and I've owned a business in the past. COVID kind of took my business away, but I learned quite a bit, and that's the main thing. So I've had a varied background, and I've won a few awards, and I've been around a while for the most part. I guess that's what that's starting to say. But let me tell you a little bit about Earth Science. For the most part, we pick up where fourth grade leaves off. Fourth grade had a lot of Earth Science in it, and fifth grade kind of takes them into a different direction. But we're coming back, and so right now we're in a high interest area. We're starting with astronomy. At the very first, we've done a little bit with the history. The idea behind the history of astronomy, though, is to look at theories and how they change and evolve over time. And then we have astronomy coming up with the sun and the planets. That'll be our next unit, really. And then the Earth, Sun, the Moon system. It's very visual, understanding where the Earth, Sun, and Moon are at various times, the tides, the seasons, and whatnot. Then we move into geology toward the late fall and the winter time, which is a great time here in Vicar Creek. We have acreage behind us where we can go explore. And in the fall, it's just beautiful here in Georgia, so it's great to be out there. Then by spring, we do a little bit with the oceanography and meteorology, which are sort of true loves of mine. I have a Navy background. I served in the Navy for a couple of years. And I've actually been in the ocean as a submariner and worked with meteorology as well on the surface. We end the year with natural resources. So this will be taking a look at renewable, non-renewable, sustainable, and whatnot. Now, this kind of slides into the high school class, although, believe it or not, we're already looking towards high school, of environmental science, where the kids that's one of the electives they could take. Probably about 40% of that class is covered in here, at least introduced. So I do take that somewhat seriously. I want them to do well when they get into that. Some of the things that we do in this class that make it a little bit different, perhaps when we had science, we do a little more integration of other things. We've already done some things with math. We've done a formula, and I've had them figure out density. We'll be incorporating literature all summer in a day. It was by Ray Bradbury book, a story that we'll be taking a look at. Social studies, we take a look at the science industry. And, of course, we bring in other sciences as well. I am pushing them towards process, because what a lot of them see science as is more of a, I learn a bunch of facts and then I kind of regurgitate it on a quiz later on. But we do spend some time trying to get them to be more, instead of kind of followers of science, to be more of consumers of it in some ways. And so we're interested in not only do they know the planet's orbit, but what's causing that orbit. How do theories change? What is a theory? How does it organize our ideas? And just causes and effects is what we're trying to look at. We do work a little bit with note-taking, but many of them struggle with that, so I've done a lot of it, mainly on electronics. You'll see most of my work is all online. And then I use, I was the technology specialist here at the school for a couple of years, and so I tend to lean heavy on that whenever I can. So most of what your student will be doing in my classroom is all online for the most part. You'll see that the basic idea of my class, and it's very similar to social studies and whatnot, is we have a weekly quiz, but it's not really called a quiz because that kind of generates anxiety in our kids, but it's a formative check. That's what we call it. So the idea is they can take this formative check usually once or even twice. It's open notes usually, and they can kind of see what's going to be on the test. Out of everything we did that week, what are really the key things? We try to make it real visual, kind of funny, not too long, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, at the most 20. Something that they could really get an idea of what's going to be on that test. They shouldn't be going into the test going, I don't know what's going to be on it, because every Friday we do that. For the most part, these formative checks serve as their study guide as we go along. So that way they see the material when I teach it. They see the material maybe during an activity. They see the same material during a formative check. When we study for it, when we review, so there's 4 times they see it before they even have a test on it. So that's the idea behind that, and that's the basic structure of the class for the most part. like I said, we do emphasize, I do want to emphasize process a little bit. We aren't just merely memorizing facts. We are taking a look at these, the whys, and what, and we have labs. I do push them a little bit as I've gotten older, I guess, as a teacher, looking at getting them to be a little more independent. This is kind of what middle school is. We do know that by 8th grade, we want them to be fairly autonomous. And so I give them situations where they can work on their own a little bit and kind of let them see what they do, and also working with others. That's another thing that just takes time with this group. That's kind of they're naturally social, and they get really social in spring. But for the most part, we work. I try to be constructive, and everybody work with a common goal. So those are the main things with earth science. A lot to it, actually. I've enjoyed teaching this, and I've enjoyed my 5th period a lot so far. There's wonderful kids. There's 31 of them, I believe. And so we're just starting to get going with and getting some grades in the grade book probably at the end of the week. And so yeah, so they can kind of see how they're going, and we'll work it from there. Please feel free to email me if you have any questions or comments or anything that you want to get a hold of me. You can also call. I think emails tend to get to my phone, and so it's a little bit easier to respond to those. And if there's anything that you would like to know. Thank you very much.